All right, we are live. Thanks to everybody who showed up. I'm a bit rusty at this. I have not live streamed in a very long time, and I don't think I actually ever live streamed on YouTube. All this is very new to me. Expect a lot of technical difficulties, but it looks like everything is going well. So hopefully it remains that way. There will be some bitrate issues with some of the material. I'm using OBS Ninja, and I'm not super familiar with it, so some of the footage and some of the stuff we're going to be showing and talking about, it's not going to be of the best quality. That's my fault, but it is what it is. But without further ado, I would like to welcome Roland and Edmund from KVLT Games. You might already be familiar with some of the stuff that they've put out in the past. I think you know, unquestionably the most well-known thing that you guys are known for is Hype Mat Defender, and yeah, recently they tried. Well, I guess for the last year, really, you've been working on the Nintendo Switch release.
Uh, yeah. I mean, first of all, I just want to, say thank you for having us today, and that it's actually quite an honor that we are the guests on your the first stream you're doing now again. I feel quite honored by that. Yeah, we've been working not for the entire last year, but approximately half a year, a
Okay,
bit over half a year actually, on the Nintendo port. Yeah,
so
of the Great Rebellion of the game we released in 24. Yeah.
I guess real quick, let's talk about what the game is for people who aren't familiar with it, and let's see here. What should I Well, for the last 6 months or so, you've been working on the development kit to get it released on the Switch, and it was about to release. What was it today?
Actually, on 21st, so 4 days ago,
Okay,
was the planned release date.
and a day before it was supposed to release on the American and European stores, you got a message saying what exactly?
The message said that they have decided not to publish our game because it contains content that they deem, what was it, damaging to their reputation or brand.
Right, and that's the
Yeah,
extent. That's the extent of it. Like upon, like I
that's the
assume,
extent of what we know.
yeah,
Yeah,
I assumed you tried to like follow that up and ask them again, like for clarification, and so far they haven't responded.
exactly. We did. Nothing has come. We will try. I would not be entirely surprised if, nothing ever came back besides that, but we will try to get some kind of, yeah, statement from them or information what we can do. We asked them, is there something in particular we can take out, and then maybe resubmit the game or so. But yeah, that's the current status. It has also now been taken down. At first, it was taken down from the American and European eShops, and yeah, just today we received the info from Nintendo. It will also be taken down from the Japanese one. So yeah, it's now completely purged from the Switch.
And I guess what's really unfortunate about all of that is, you guys spent all the money on the dev kits and whatnot, and because to prepare a port for Nintendo Switch or any kind of particular platform, it's not necessarily a walk in the park.
No, it's a very involved process. Actually, the dev kits we did pay for dev kits. We have to buy them ourselves. Uh, I mean that wasn't even like the most money. We spent some money on them, but like the most money has been, yeah, burned effectively now, because we of course had to pay ourselves. We had to pay. I had to pay the programmer who was working on the port together with me, and the losses of the revenue that we're now not having, and we also couldn't work on anything else. We could have worked on one of our other games and gotten it ready, gotten it closer to release, and then actually have something releasable. And now we are kind of like standing there empty-handed. So
Yeah,
that
between all of
is
us, it's a few hundred man
unfortunate.
hours gone.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
the fact, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of work.
and it seems reasonable to. I mean, people get things like this happen for a variety of reasons, depending on the context, exact scenario. One can speculate as to a variety of motives, but the fact that they waited until the last day before release, it makes me suspect that it was mostly somebody who had a personal grudge or political bone to pick with KVLT Games and what it might represent in their mind. And the motivation here was to take into account that you guys had spent quite a bit of money, time on this, and it was calculated to cause mass financial damage.
That's possible. I mean, obviously, I can't prove that, but it's. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I'm not sure. This like who could have planned that? Maybe someone. Basically, only someone inside of Nintendo because we only announced the release of the game a few weeks ago. So somebody outside of Nintendo couldn't have really like planned this in that way. The thing is, we of course, people say like, yeah, are you surprised that you got banned? I mean, kinda, because we handed in the game quite some time ago. Actually, already at the beginning of this year, we handed in, not we handed in, but we applied for a Nintendo Dev account, and we did provide them with a link to the Steam page of the PC version, the uncensored version of the Great Rebellion. So they knew that this is the game that we want to port. They could look at it. They could. I mean, I assume they are doing their research. I mean, I don't know. Otherwise, I would have to assume that Nintendo just doesn't care what game they get on their console. But I don't think that's the case. So they always knew what game this was, and they didn't have a problem with that. And we did even self censor the game. So the final version of the game that we then handed in for the Switch build was actually sanitized. Like we removed all the overt explicit political content. I mean, obviously the themes were still there. It was still about like a technocratic dystopia, but without the explicit references and yeah, basically this. So that there was good reason for us to assume that this is fine. Like all the time we handed in marketing materials and so on, everything was fine. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that should be stressed that Nintendo's team walked through all the material and gave you a green light, and then this decision came later on. So, I mean,
If they would have just rejected us initially, it would have been like, yeah, okay, whatever. We'll just do something else instead.
yeah.
Wouldn't have been a big deal, really. Yeah.
Yeah, the
In
only
that
rejection
sense.
we'd had previously was a tobacco reference in the trailer. That was it. We had like a technocratic elite in the trailer that was like doing some sort of vape, and they just got a hold of us and said, "Can you blur that out or remove it somehow?" That was like the only inkling of anything being wrong. Apart from that, we got it all rated for America and Europe, and they came back as like anything from PG to a 12. So yeah, game for kids essentially.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my personal suspicion is that um, I don't know, some kind of like activist NGO, whatever, has contacted Nintendo. Possibly the German government, because the German government really doesn't like us. And
Did
because of
real
Heimat
real quick
Defender, they still have a grudge because of that, essentially.
did
Hmm.
the U.S. store or the European store axe you first? Like which?
Yeah, actually, the US store, which is a bit odd. It was actually the US store, then the next day the European one. But maybe that's just how, I don't
Right.
know. Maybe that's just
It could be
something with the
like they're
internal communication.
yeah, it could be like it could still I still feel like I'm inclined to lean towards somebody from the Austrian or German government contacting them, and the U.S. had like
I
it.
mean, yeah, it's a likely scenario because we do know. I already mentioned that before. We do know that our game also got removed in Germany from Steam, and we do know that this was because authorities contacted them.
Right.
The same for Good Old Games, but Good Old Games actually did not remove us. So we know that German authorities contacted them, and they did it because of that reason. And I mean, I think it would be at least plausible to assume that essentially the same thing happened with Nintendo. So I mean, yeah, we're in that situation where it's possible. I cannot prove this, but it's possible that the German authorities are basically just calling every platform that publishes the Great Rebellion, to take it down. Even though like we're not even based in Germany or something. I'm Austrian, and yeah,
They seem to think
but
they're a lone voice crying out in the wilderness, like
yeah,
when no other
probably they're like,
government's done anything.
Well,
yeah,
where's if I mean you don't have to answer this if you feel like it's disadvantageous to do so, but where's Cult Games technically registered?
um, well, I am. I mean, I am the. There is an entity, a legal entity that has the name Cold Games that is registered in Austria on my name,
Okay.
and we are working together with another company that is actually based not in Austria. That's it.
Then the irony being, like, we get labeled German by
Yeah.
every single news site, by
No
Vice, by
legal
the German
entity
government.
whatsoever is in Germany.
Right.
Yeah,
We have
and also
nothing in Germany.
staff, like team members, volunteers, freelancers. Like 2 are German, the rest are like English, Scottish, like Czech,
Romanian.
like Italian, Romanian.
Or
you name it.
Hungarian, I guess. I'm thinking of a particular guy. He's
I know who you mean. He's like technically German Hungarian. Yeah. But yeah, we have all kinds of. We have Finnish. Yeah, it's like from the West Coast in the United States to Finland.
here. So, as it stands, you can still get the game on Steam, just not the German Steam.
That's correct, but you can get it on Good Old Games if you're in Germany.
Okay,
So-
and then okay, that's interesting. Oh, that's what
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say. All of this talk of international, borders and whatnot, and company registration made me think about recently. I believe Proton Mail. That company was originally based in Switzerland, and they ended up moving to, I think, Norway. I think their company is split between Germany and Norway now. And it's a kind of a bizarre case because I forget exactly what legal changes there were in Switzerland, but it started to violate their because their company is built around personal privacy. Their users' privacy is like paramount, and some legal changes in Switzerland compromised that. And it was just kind of bizarre because Switzerland has been known so well for decades. I mean, maybe over 100 years at this point, for just being a champion of, protecting anonymity. And so there's just a lot of various legal changes going on in Europe. And it seems like
you could say that.
What's that?
No, yeah, I agree. Like you can say that. Yeah, there is a lot going on in Europe. Like Europe is really like speedrunning. Technocratic dystopia. Yeah.
Do you think in the future it will be more advantageous to before I keep talking about that, let's go over where you where you can buy the game. You can buy it on Steam. You can buy it on GOG. Is there anywhere else where you can purchase it? You could purchase it.
I mean, you can. Yeah, you can buy it from our own website,
Right.
actually. Great-rebellion.com. We even have our own, because we always feared that we would get banned from everywhere, so we have a backup option, basically. You can buy it directly from our website.
Hence, it also runs on Linux as well and Mac
Yeah.
OS.
Yeah, that reminds me. I think Microsoft has recently announced officially that File Explorer actually does run slow, and they're having all these
Yeah.
issues with it. And I don't know if you guys have heard about that.
Yeah, I've heard about it. I don't have the time for it. I have so much going on, but eventually I will have to change to Linux. Windows is just getting like completely unusable. For now, I'm using File Pilot instead of File Explorer. Like I can recommend this to every
Oh,
Windows
wow.
user. Just download File Pilot. It's much better. It's much faster. It actually does the things that you want to, and nothing else. So yeah, you can just replace the default Windows File Explorer with File Pilot.
Yeah, I have been working on a long 14-part, probably 6 to 7 hour long series on Star Trek, and I'm going over a lot of the metapolitical messaging in it. And so far, I have 9 segments done. But yeah, as you might imagine, for a big video editing project like that, I use File Explorer a lot, and it's crashing constantly. It is just causing so many different headaches, and it's just bizarre because previously, I mean, you would just think it's a simple program. It's not something that's doing something particularly convoluted, so I mean, it's been a nightmare at
Yeah, just endless technical debt for many years that has accumulated in a hopelessly bloated thing.
Is that what you think it is mostly? Do you think it's just
Yeah, that and too many Indians probably.
yeah like every time I call
Yeah.
customer service now for any, it's an Indian, but it's weird because usually there is depending on what service you're calling, there's some kind of geopolitical location indication. and there's some kind of indication of where the person you're calling is located. And I've noticed for Amazon, it comes up Oregon, the state of Oregon in the United States very often, but it's almost always Indian. So I don't know if they have an actual call center there or if it's just some kind of legalese, wherein, there's a call center sort of digitally based there, but then it gets rerouted somewhere else. And that's how they can get away with saying, oh, technically you're speaking with somebody in Oregon, even not.
Indian. It sounds more likely it's Britain. I'll be honest.
Yeah?
Probably Britain.
Well, yeah, possible.
All right. So,
Right.
with all of that said, yeah, I guess we should have initially gone over like what the game is. And actually, I don't think I have curated footage here for the Great Rebellion.
Actually, yeah, I didn't actually give you a... That's true, yeah. But I can just briefly describe it. It's a retro-inspired platformer shooter, twin-stick shooter, pixel art graphics, a roguelike game that takes place in a dystopian European future where a big corporation has taken over, and essentially it is, it's a criticism of multicultural, globalist. It's basically a parody of the world we live in, but taking place in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a cathartic experience, I guess. You know?
Yeah, it was kind of the game where we had to get it all out, in the sense of like catharsis. That's what I mean. Yeah, with it.
Yeah, but then I mean, overloading with all of that also is the fact that it's a very good roguelite as well.
Yes,
The
that
reviews
is
do speak for themselves, and
that is true.
we really didn't want to be not this a bad game. It looks like a very fun game and well polished, but like it's not like the 30 minutes Alex Jones game. Like this thing is a proper roguelite that can stand on its own 2 feet. Hence, we were willing to bring it to the Switch because we were like, right, side-scrolling, run and gun. This is going to fit perfectly on the Switch. If we just basically take the teeth out of the satire and just make it more generalized about any kind of corporate-based future, right? So fundamentally, once we did that, it's not saying much different to what any other popular title has said, from like Cyberpunk to Deus Ex.
Yeah, I mean these games as well had, similar themes and satirical elements, and really the stuff we left in. I'm actually quite proud of that version that we made for the Switch because, in a sense, because it takes out all the like overt or like maybe even very memey elements, and just leaves the actual bare bones, so to say, game. And it still works. It's still good. It's fine. It plays just as fine. So that was kind of for me also the proof that this is actually a good game that we made. I mean, it's a small game. It's a game mostly made by me, not only. Edmund did QA, added a lot ideas to the game design, and wrote all the text in the game, and a lot of the story, everything. So it's like, but it's a very small team, and for that, I think it's pretty good. It's got overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, so there's that.
Some people are saying to turn up the volume. So let me see here about that.
Am I too quiet?
I think they're saying that everybody is quiet. Check. Let's see. I mean, in OBS, I'm like pretty loud, so I'm not sure if that's truly on.
They say the nice Austrian Eugene says the nice Austrian man should turn up his volume. Okay.
Let me fiddle with that real quick. Don't do anything, Roland.
Okay.
Okay. Now say a couple things, Roland.
Hello. Test.
All right, guys. What do you think of that? Is Roland's volume okay now?
Is it better? Wiener Schnitzel, Bratwurst, Mozart. It seems loud to us. It's soft. Better. Okay, Eugene says it's better. Nice.
All right, now
Krogan is fine, and Roland.
Okay, now what about Edmund? Edmund, say a couple things real quick.
Wonderful.
Beans on toast, fish and chips, cup of tea. and all the rest, all the trimmings, mate.
All right.
And the gravy.
All right,
the
chat. Do I
borscht.
need to turn him up? Low. Okay, let me see here. All right, Edmund, say a couple things again.
Tea and crumpets, jam on toast. Back in time for tea and medals. Getting any better?
It should be, maybe if somebody hasn't yet noticed, like there are subtle hints that Edmund is actually British. So
I'm not. I'm actually on a VPN. I run from India.
All right, I have pretty
Yeah,
much turned Edmund up as far as I can. This is definitely a low-tech, lo-fi stream. I did not have the ability at the moment to make this more professional. So again, I apologize. But hopefully he is at a reasonable volume now. Yeah, some people
you can just save afterwards and then export it higher. So maybe change it in post.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem with that is I was telling Roland, I think earlier, that I have everything on one track. Unfortunately, at least I have desktop and YouTube on one track. My mic's on a separate track, but yeah, like I said, I haven't done this in a really long time, and I kind of had to throw it together pretty quickly. So,
Yeah, fair enough, mate.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean,
well,
that's
guess we just have to talk louder.
just screaming to the mic.
Ah.
But yeah, but Cult Games does have a whole other library of games that are already released and are upcoming. And we do have footage of that. So let's talk about that. And which one do you want to talk about first? Because I'll make sure to play that.
Let's do Serene States because that's next.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly. We have at the moment we have 4 games that we are working on more or less in parallel. Of course, we are prioritizing some, and yeah, we'll not release them at the same time. But yes, Serene States is the next one that will come up. And yeah, let's just play the trailer in the background then. So yeah, I don't know, Edmund, do you want to say something about
Yeah,
Serene
I mean, it's
States?
like a classic action-adventure game, so think sort of PS2 era, so it's a little bit like Jack, it's a little bit like Ratchet and Clank and stuff, but it's got an element of sort of System Shock light about it as well, so it's not quite a collectathon like some of those other titles are, but it very much breathes that DNA of like Y2K era, like Fruitager Aero visuals and stuff, so there's a lot of sort of callbacks in the music, in the UI to classic Halo CE and stuff, like right there, it looks like the escape doors on the Pillar of Autumn and things like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of 2000s era nostalgia to be had in Serene States, but it's already got a demo up on Steam, which is well worth having a look at, and it's a pretty meaty demo as well. It sort of introduces what you're going to be doing in the game. There's a lot of, it's not a puzzle game per se, but there's a lot of sort of puzzles in the vein of Half-Life. So
I was about
a lot
to say,
of, like, lining
yeah, a
up
lot of what you're
beams.
describing is making me think of Half-Life, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of lining up beams and stuff to blast your way through to the next room. A lot of figuring out what the like keycard code or whatever is going to be. There's great PDA entries in the game, which are sort of like a codex you pick up. You pick up the lore of the estate, and it's quite eerie because this whole place is meant to be where everyone's had to evacuate to. They've all been sort of locked away by the powers that be for a long time, and you're not really sure how long. And you've all been put into VR headsets like the Matrix. And because of that, everyone's weak and feeble, but you wake up and you uncover what is going on in Serene States. And it's got a bit like in Fallout, where you've got this dark humor that juxtaposes the sort of comical visuals. There's a lot of like corporate speak from the AI and from the computers and the systems in the building that with dramatic irony to be completely false, right? So there's a lot of sort of 1984 double speak going on. But yeah, it's being made largely by a Finnish developer, but he's got a small team, Team Serene, within the company. And then we're just sort of helping put it out for them, lending them an audience, that kind of thing. But, they've done an amazing job, and it's been a real passion project for a few years. It started in a game jam as well for Cult Games. So, you see what can come from the creativity at a game jam.
Yeah, exactly. Like we had the game jam some years ago where the prototype of this game was made, and then the devs worked on their own for some time. Eventually, I mean, we were friends with them, and then they just approached us like, "Hey, can you help us essentially, publish the game?" Or publishing is a bit much said, but help them with marketing it, and also help them a bit with the game itself and so on. And yeah, now they're basically kind of like their own sub
It's
team
been an awesome
within Code
partnership
Games.
because we lend people
Absolutely,
back
yeah.
and forth, because then Arturi's
Sorry,
doing some
say
work
that
on
again. The last
Dwarfold.
part, you cut off for me. Last part,
Me or Edmund?
Edmund.
It's been real teamwork between the both of us as well. We've partnered up, and it means that we lend each other help. So we've had one of our programmers help them with a lot, but then likewise we need a lot of art done for Dwarfold, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So we've had Arturi come over a few times to work on 3D models and stuff. So it's been a really awesome partnership for the both of us, where there's just things neither of us can achieve without each other.
Yeah. Yeah. It's we have like kind of like teams, but everybody, we are still pretty small, obviously, and everybody just kind of helps each other, does whatever they can, and it's cross pollination, so to say. And one thing I definitely want to do is that each of our games has some kind of like reference to all the others in it. But I don't know, maybe
Oh, I
maybe
like
maybe
that.
they'll
Yeah,
even
that's
like
cool.
have like a shared universe or something. Who knows? Maybe they could all take place in the same universe. Yeah. Yeah. So that's that. Like it's all our games that we are making at this point are essentially the things we like. Like this is the kind of game that they wanted to make because it's the game they like, and that's where it comes from. No. So yeah, that's Serene States, and yeah, you can play the demo, you can wishlist it, and it will come out some point Q1 next year.
I love the
Okay, and
visuals so much, though.
do you and
Yeah.
it'll be out on Steam? What else will be out on?
Steam, yes. Probably also good old games. For now, we only do PC. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit
Have
have
to go.
trust issues when it comes to publishing things on console now. Let's
Yeah,
see.
no, I mean that's unfortunate, man. I mean, because now it's like there's this
It
track record. It's like, do you really want to invest any more time and money in that? And I think the political
That's the
agitators,
thing.
they know that. They know
Yeah,
that from now on you will be hesitant about attempting that. And
yeah.
do you
That's
do
the
you think how important do you think publishing this game or other games on Switch? How important do you think that really is?
I mean, it is a big market. It would be a significant additional revenue for us. I'm pretty
Yeah.
certain, yeah, that is essentially now then closed off if we say like we're not even gonna try it. I guess we could try it again. I mean, obviously, uh, is much less or actually not at all like political, or at least not political in the sense that TGR was. So there would be even less reason, but I mean, assuming the reason isn't even the content of the game, but just who we are, what are you gonna do about that then?
Yeah, and I mean, again, we've already gone over it, but I'll say it again just to stress the point. I feel like the fact that you went through the approval process, and then you got a letter saying well, we're not going to release the game. I mean, that just indicates that even if you did release something that had no political connotations whatsoever, somebody probably would call up and again reiterate, oh, this company could be damaging to Nintendo's brand, which is, if you really sit back and think about it, it's like Nintendo is huge. How damaging could a small developer like Cult Games really be to something like Nintendo? It's just it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it.
Not to mention, in the last few days, hundreds of our fans have screenshotted all the hentai games on Nintendo's store. And it's like they're
Right,
literally commenting, and this
right.
isn't damaging to your brand? Question mark. So how come if we basically tweet them in our hundreds, it does nothing to these hentai games? Yet what, they get one call from some freak in Portland or something, and it gets taken down?
I didn't I knew that Steam is really bad with all the pornographic video games, but I didn't know that stuff was on Nintendo's Switch Marketplace. Like, how
At this
bad is
point, it
that?
is. Nintendo has opened up to these things quite a lot in recent years. Yeah, no, it's flooded. It's all this like AI slop hentai. I don't know these games. I'm not entirely sure what exactly is in them, but they're all called something like Hentai Gallery 5, and then it's like rated 12 for
What?
rated for
Yeah, none
teens.
of it's like pure
I
sexual.
have
It's sort of dating and
no
talking.
Yeah, but it always has hentai in the title, and it's obviously very sexualized, even though if it's probably not like explicit. I'm not even entirely sure who's the target audience for that actually. I'm
Yeah,
not
we had to
sure.
remove a bit in TGR when you go to your computer at the beginning of the game. The sort of gag is there's like 8 options for you to run through. You can like post something on social media, you can order something off of the universe's version of Amazon. You can do all these different things, and no matter what you do, you end up with minus social credit for either buying the wrong thing according to your data, or for like being attracted to the wrong kind of people. And they check your online user like data, and it turns out you're attracted to like women your age and within like an acceptable body weight, and they force on you like dodgy pornographic content because of it, because they're like, yeah, this is problematic, yikes. That was the one thing they were like, oh, this is too sexual for Nintendo, could you remove this please? And we were like, yeah, absolutely, like not a problem. And we like toned it way down to be sort of safe for work. Yet these hentai games are right there, and that's the entire premise.
Yeah, that you know, I hate to be all conspiratorial, but it almost makes me feel, and this probably isn't true. This is me, but like, it almost makes me think that somebody during the approval process was like, "Oh, let's like gaslight them into thinking that, you know, we're gonna release it, and we'll tell them do this, do that, you know, thereby creating more work for you." And then at the end, you know, with the goal being, you know, to pull the rug out from under you, because you're like, you know, when you do all this jumping through hoops to satisfy various things, various demands, various obligations, and whatnot, you know, and then, you know, the rug's pulled out from under you. That's like really demoralizing.
I mean,
Um,
maybe. I honestly, I largely just think it's an incredibly big bureaucratic beast, right? With all these multi-regions that are sort of autocephalous to some extent. And it's like, I actually just think, like, we are still getting updates, by the way, saying, like, oh, your patch has been approved for the core
Right,
rebellion.
right.
So
yeah,
it's just,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a huge lumbering beast. And I think that's why we heard first from America. We asked for data or information, you know, and they were like, oh, talk to Germany. That's where you're meant to be. So we talk to Germany, we hear nothing. And then Japan's got it up for a week, and then Japan's like, okay, now it's not. I just think it takes a long time for this stuff to circulate, if I'm honest. And like,
I think
it
you're
depends
right.
whose desk you go over.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
I think,
I don't want to say too many details here, but yeah, it's a very bureaucratic process, and things that it took some real like getting used to things that took on Steam. Like if you publish something on Steam, you know, it takes you like a few minutes or so to upload something or change something about your store page or whatever. And if we are talking like, you know, minutes on Steam, then like for
Well,
Nintendo, it's like we're talking weeks or something
here,
until everything is reviewed. And yeah, it's very, very
well,
bureaucratic.
Cyberpunk wasn't asked to remove any of its sexual content, including sex.
yeah,
They were
and
just like,
like, you
oh,
know,
it's an 18, that's the fact.
removable genitalia, and you know, during the character creation process and all of that. I mean, there's some wacky stuff in there.
Yeah, 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 and that was all
Yeah,
kept, and
it's all
not only was
very
it
arbitrary.
not only
I
was it
mean, it's
kept,
not
but
arbitrary actually.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But they went on the grounds of like, well, okay, it's an 18, fair enough. Red Dead's on there, it's got prostitutes, you can put a woman on a train track, whatever.
Yeah, tie her
Yeah,
up and
but
have her eaten
then,
by crocodiles or alligators, not crocodiles.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. And then for us, it's like, oh, there's a little joke on your computer where it says that you've got a subscription to the My Little Pony Club. Can you remove that? And it's like, that's really weird because you didn't ask anyone else to remove that.
Hmm. I guess
Yeah.
something else that came to mind to me just now is that, and I'm kind of wondering if I should talk about this on stream or not. But as various companies, tech companies, whether it's Steam, whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook, whatever it is, as it fills up with migrants, immigrants, people of a different ethnic background, you know, for example, Indians, they have a tendency to engage in nepotism to one degree or another. And so, what I think might happen to some extent is that, I mean, this is just one factor and one consideration among many, because like the bureaucratic bloat is a beast in and of itself. But when you get ethnic nepotism involved and I suppose this isn't so much involved in video games, but you know, definitely on YouTube, um, certain things will get banned before other things. Certain things will be given a green light before other things. If there's a pronounced ethnic group control over a particular facet of an industry. So in the case of YouTube, well, if one of you have a commentary on that, feel free to chime in. But So in the case of YouTube, I think what happens sometimes is, because there are a lot of Indians within the company now, if somebody publishes something like, what was that big YouTuber's name who recently went to India and had he filmed the poop throwing fest, and
Yeah, I watched it. I'm not sure who he is, but
Oliver
Yeah,
Thomas Oliver Oliveira or something like that.
something like that. I have not. I know whom you're talking about, but I have not. Yeah.
I just can't
don't
remember his
the
name. I'm not trying to act like I'm not super familiar with his, because I've watched a couple of his videos and whatnot, and he's pretty good at what he does. But he went to the fecal matter throwing festival in India, and Indians just got really, really upset. And I think, I don't, I probably shouldn't talk about this in depth because I don't know all the details, but I feel like his video initially got banned or something like that, or he was threatened with it being banned.
I think it did get. There was something. Yeah. I also won't say too much because I'm not sure, but I think it was taken down temporarily or something. I
But
don't know.
yeah, at the very least, a hell of a lot of Indian nationalists have called for the banning. Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think what you can definitely see on social media in general, be it X, Twitter, or Facebook, whatever it is, if Indians feel slighted in some fashion, they will come out in droves, and they will
Yeah.
all post in response to something that they take offense to, and they will work together as a collective to undermine that. And that's a mechanic now in the globalized, obviously the internet was always globalized to some extent, but if you go back to the early 2000s, it was mostly Western countries that were online.
Well, people have been talking about that, right? That there should be options on X about what countries you're engaging with, because of course the population levels matter, and when you're looking at a global technology, okay, well, like India is something like a third of the world's population or something ridiculous, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, why can't I shut that off? Why does my political statement or anything have to also be affected by the opinion of 40, 50 million that are already online? I think there's 65 million of them online or something, and it's like that's a very small
Yeah,
percentage of them.
yeah. Musk recently talked about bringing what's the company called, Starlight or Starlink?
Starlink. Yeah.
Yeah, Starlink has been online, and it's been put online in places like Somalia and India now, and ChatGPT, or OpenAI, the company that owns ChatGPT, they have Sam Altman, the CEO, has explicitly talked about how India, I think, is their second largest market, and it is projected potentially to become their largest market. And
Yeah.
what you have to think about is these large language models are going to be training masses. They're going to be getting tons and tons of their data sets from these other countries, and these cultures are very different. The people have different norms, like different expectations, and it's not really fair or just to people around regardless of whether or not you're in a Western nation or not. If you're in nation A and nation B has a disproportionate influence on how media gets created and what have you, it's going to have all these cultural considerations and practices that might be alien to you, it might be offensive to you, it might be incompatible. And the internet increasingly will not be a very pleasant place for a lot of people if just huge numbers of people from a particular country or culture that has demographic advantage or numeric advantage just runs roughhouse over everybody.
Yeah, I mean, even if you add everyone up across Europe and the Anglosphere, right, we're looking at like 8% of the world's population. So fundamentally, if you democratize the internet in such a way, yeah, you're just going to get ridden roughshod. But we shouldn't worry about it, right? Because we'll get minority protection status, right?
Yeah, that's not happening. Yeah, yeah. It definitely seems like, not to take this and stream into too political of a direction, but it definitely seems like as we creep closer and closer to becoming minorities in all of our respective countries, I see absolutely no indication whatsoever that the legal system is inclined, give us minority protection status and consideration. Obviously there have been some changes in rhetoric. People have been increasingly expressing concern over, anti-white practices. Some people, are increasingly concerned over what's called wokeness and all of that. But is that really on the path as we understand it right now to translate into minority protection rights? I kind of don't see that trajectory right now.
Yeah, I don't see that either. I think like they will not just be given to us if we are, I don't know, nice or hope for it or something.
There's multiple hands, like cards in a hand, right? And it's like, look at Trump, for instance. They've just declared something along the lines of looking into or applying to the UN for, like, in Britain, mass migration is a human rights. Uh, what do you call it? Like contradiction or whatever. And they're trying to get it so that it can actually be, the British can be protected from mass migration. But at the same time, he's like, oh yeah, H-1B visas, whatever. Let's bring in 300,000 Chinese spies. In the same week, they're saying both these things.
Yeah, in the case of
I
the U.S.,
mean,
it's particularly weird how. Well, go ahead, Roland. Do you have something to say?
no, no, no. I don't know. I just, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit black-pilled there or whatever, but I just think that these, it's always you always get something that sounds nice on paper, and then through the back door you get the infinite Indians or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's,
Well,
it's
the case with the H-1Bs, especially. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are similar there are similar programs in other Western nations, but H-1B in the U.S. It's bizarre how so many people, even Musk, Donald Trump, Musk, a lot of big names will talk about how we just don't have the people, we just don't have the talent, and it's just like the U.S. in the '60s created the Apollo space program, like it's just the idea, and I think there was a recent Substack published that went into detail about how many computer science graduates there are every year in the U.S. It's close to 200,000, and something like I think 85% of them, don't quote me on that, can't find employment within their industry, within like 2 years after graduating. It's just and then you hear about these tech companies who purposefully place ads in because legally, I think to some extent, a lot of these companies have to place ads marketed to Americans, to locals. And what I have found that they do time and again is publish them in purposefully obscure places so that locals won't find them, and then they can go and they can justify before the U.S. government that we need to advertise in India or wherever now because we can't find locals to fill these positions. You just kind of have this feedback loop, and it might not even be the case that Musk and Trump really, they might be presented data sets that, from their perspective, look accurate. Because you got to think somebody like Musk, he's running how many different companies. He's a smart guy, but he's not aware of literally every nook and cranny of every single system that there is. Nobody is. You have to have a certain amount of personnel and infrastructure around you to mitigate, subsidiary tasks of one sort or another. So from their perspective, they might think there legitimately isn't personnel, available. But what I think you have on top of that is, because there have been a couple different Indian hiring agencies that I think have been taken to court in the U.S. and sued for discrimination. Because basically they will get into a company and they will hire almost exclusively Indians, to the exclusion of everybody else. And so you get this kind of feedback loop wherein a particular ethnic group has a vested interest in securing more positions for themselves, and then that gets presented to companies as unbiased data when it's not unbiased, so on and so forth. But yeah, we could keep talking about this ad infinitum, but maybe we should start talking about some of the other games in the catalog.
No, I mean this is this is a big topic, and yeah, it has many aspects. There is the ethnic nepotism, definitely, that's a big one. There are also these companies that just like bombard, basically like they just bombard companies if they have open job offers with like I don't know how many Indians writing the application there, and then they just like drown out any other applications and so on. There's multiple factors to all of that. I don't know. I think this is not going away, and guess maybe we have to do a bit of a nepotism or
Yeah, I
stuff.
mean,
I don't
I mean, I know
Yeah.
a pronounced majority of Western people are very into they're very into meritocracy. They're very into individualism and all of that. But sooner or later, like if you play that game with people who aren't going to play that game, if you play the game with people who are not going to reciprocate the rules, you're going to lose. Your kids are going to
Yes.
lose, your grandkids are going to lose, your family's going to lose, your friends are going to lose. It's not going to, and in some cases, there's just not a way to really mandate that kind of behavior. It's just culturally ingrained, from birth, and yeah. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, we should try
Right.
to move on, I guess. So what are some of the other games? What's the next game you want to talk about in the catalog?
All right. So the next game we have coming up is Dwarfold, which is a old school classic fantasy dungeon crawler. In the vein of something like Dungeon Master or Lands of Lore, mixed with some light base building. Imagine a little bit like Darkest Dungeon meets Dungeon Master or something. It's all very dungeon centric. And it's a bit, I just have a huge fable for these old school Tolkien-esque heroic fantasy games. I think they are also like just you know they are based on European myth. There is a reason why people like us like things like The Lord of the Rings, and obviously it has also been um, very strongly. There have been very strong attempts to subvert this genre or these stories, these
Yeah,
tales.
yeah,
And what we want to do is make an earnest, game in that vein that just isn't like, I don't know, self-aware or I don't know, ironic about it or has like millennial writing or something. It's just yeah, a good old
there's
fantasy game
there's too
with
much
a
irony, bro. Stuff today, like
yeah, it's like the anti-irony bro thing. We're gonna have a dungeon synth artist. I don't know how many people listen to Dungeon Synth here. It's a little bit of a niche, but if somebody knows the name Splendorius, will make the soundtrack for us. And we have Alexei Gorbot has made a cool cover artwork for us. I have sent that to you. Maybe you can show that quickly.
yeah, let me pull
That
that up.
poppy, like slightly psychedelic looking artwork.
The subversion of
Um,
this is very on purpose as well. Like Tolkien
oh
once
yeah.
said, like obviously he was a devout Catholic critic of Vatican II, but devout Catholic at the time, and he said, like fantasy is where we actually get to see glimpses of victory, right? Because he said, as a Christian, I'm well aware from prophecy that the world is going to be a long defeat for us at the end of it all, until the second coming. So from his worldview, one that I share, he was like, but where do we get to see men actually stand up? Where do we actually get to see these men who were not ready, the hobbits, Rohan, Gondor, who weren't prepared? Where do we get to see them actually regain their bravery? Where do we get to see the second coming, i.e. the return of the king? We get to see it in fantasy, and that gives us hope as well. And it's like, yeah, it's so true. So if you subvert that and everything's just as bad in fantasy, then it becomes a pretty bleak outlook.
You know, I've watched a little bit of the Rings of Power recently. I made it a point not to watch that for the longest time, and I forget what prompted me recently to start watching it. But the whole non-white, non-English Hobbit really is problematic. No matter what your political stance is, because Tolkien explicitly said on many occasions that they're representative of rustic English people. Um, so
Yeah, I mean, it's the Shire because it's a Shire, right? Oxfordshire,
right,
Bedfordshire, yeah.
right, and so it's just annoying on that level. Like I guess if I want to be uh, generous and courteous, I can understand some of the impulses and motivations certain very left leaning actors have when they want to be inclusive. Because if there are, increasingly a bunch of foreign people watching, consuming, a particular. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, if you have a society that is becoming increasingly diverse, there is a kind of justification for including those diverse people in the local lore. From a very, I mean, again, I'm being super generous here. I don't really agree with this stance. I'm just saying I can kind of understand why they think they're being morally righteous and correct and empathetic and all that. Um, but in the end, that it just it cheapens everything. You know, uh, I don't think anybody really feels the necessity when they consume Japanese. Like, I mean, I think recently there's some kind of Chinese free to play game that got launched. It's some kind of like massive RPG type game. What's it called? Like where something. Anyway, it looks like it's well made, but it takes place in China and like medieval China, and it's just nothing but Chinese people. And it's just like, why would anybody feel the need to see anything in that game other than Chinese people? People will say, "Oh, well, obviously, Tolkien is fantasy, but it's just like it's fantasy built off of a particular European folklore." I'm not really saying anything here that we all haven't heard before. I guess it's just
I quite agree. I've never had a pull to be in Japanese content because someone once said to me, how would you feel the other way around if you were somewhere and its national mythology, i.e., Tolkien giving us that back, hence all the callbacks to what remaining mythology we have from the Anglo-Saxons. It's like, can you not see how they want to be included? Yeah, I kind of can, but at the same time, no, because I've never had a feeling when I've consumed anything Japanese to be like, I really think we should show up in this. If the British are in a Japanese thing, it's kind of cool, but I don't. But it doesn't imply that they were always there. It doesn't imply that they've been in Japan for like 1,000 years. That's the real difference there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's never bothered me one iota. But I do get that to some extent because we've been the largest civilizing force in this world. Yeah, most media people are consuming, most people they're seeing, and all these sort of icons that Hollywood makes for people are typically white. So I can see where some people are coming from, but it just comes down to like, well, do what India does, man. Make Bollywood.
Exactly. I was
make your
just
own
about
thing.
to bring that up. Bollywood. Bollywood doesn't cater to anybody. It just makes stuff that Indians want to see, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't personally get into that media, but it's not made for me. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of justifications, and yeah, as you said, like as society gets more diverse, it is more easy to argue for like diverse casts and all that. But I think at the end of the day, if we are all honest here, like everybody knows that they are just doing it like to subvert white European history and mythology. Like that's the intention behind it. And then of course there is the argument, it's not real, it's just fantasy. You think dragons are like okay, but black people go too far, and that's of course a very disingenuous argument.
It's totally disingenuous, yeah.
Yeah, because that's totally not the point. It would be, yeah, they are just like it would be weird if in a fantasy movie suddenly there is a Toyota car driving through the scene. That's about the same thing. So yeah, that's obvious, and everybody knows that this is the reason why this is happening. But yeah, there is all this obfuscation going on, as usual.
But yeah, Dwarfold doesn't really do it. So
yes,
right,
we don't do that.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We don't do that. I have seen in the comments that somebody has criticized the portraits. Yeah, okay. I'll forward that to the artist. I personally like them quite a bit, but
Yeah,
we're still working out the details of the graphics. And also originally, it should be noted. Yeah, one thing I want to say regarding Dwarfold. Originally, our plan was to release it for mobile first. Because basically I always thought like why do all mobile games have to be shit? There is no reason. It's also just a computer that you can carry around. You could have good games on a mobile platform. So we decided, we want to attempt to make the anti-slop mobile game. But the thing is that due to our current situation with Nintendo and everything, we probably will have to reprioritize some things. And I think we still have to talk about that, but I think what we will do is that we do release Dwarfold actually for PC first on Steam, and probably as early access already at some point early next year.
Is
So,
there?
yeah,
Is,
that's
go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's the current plan.
it's a good way to
regarding that game.
angle as well, because I mean, at the end of the day, we've got things like the GameCube coming out, the Steam Machine. I think Steam's honestly a pretty good horse to back at this point. They're trying to get their OS in more places. I really do think they're a pretty good side to be on at the moment, especially if they market that thing with like Half-Life 3 or something, depending on what those rumors, how true they prove to be. But I think getting on Steam is going to be a big boon for us in the future anyway, and it's one of those, know which side your bread is buttered on.
Yeah.
A question about development. Is there anything in particular you have to do to make games work well on the Steam Deck devices?
I mean, Obviously they have to like fit the hardware requirements. It's not as beefy as like, I don't know, a modern gaming PC maybe necessarily. And apart from that, it has to be controllable with the Steam Deck controllers. And how was it? I think you only count as like 100% compatible on Steam. You're listed as 100% compatible on Steam if you also have like the button prompts in your game, like that are specifically showing the Steam Deck buttons. But even if your game doesn't do that and it still runs, then it is considered partially Steam Deck compatible and will be listed also on Steam. So you don't actually have to do much. We didn't really do much for TGR, and it was automatically basically listed as Steam Deck compatible.
So it's basically just a matter of scaling things back and introducing, making sure that it has full controller compatibility.
Pretty much. If you have a game that isn't too hardware hungry and has controller support, then it's probably gonna run on the Steam Deck, at least,
Well, I guess
except for the button prompt thing.
I guess the Steam Deck, again, I've never played it and I've never seriously looked into it or anything like that. But I think Doom, like all the new Doom games, run on it, or some iteration of them, and the Witcher games, I think, run on them. So it seems like a pretty capable, pretty powerful little device.
Oh yeah, I mean, sure, yeah, like games that have been made, a few years up until a few years ago, and even now, yeah, it's pretty good. I actually consider it getting one myself. Yeah.
Do you guys increasingly feel like going for mobile devices, catering more to that will be better than just straight up PC games, especially for like platformers and things like that?
I don't know. I mean, the mobile, honestly, I don't even want to say too much about the mobile market at this point because we're still like trying to figure out how it actually works. It's very different from the PC market, and it has its own rules, and obviously it's completely crowded with like the worst shovelware slop. So yeah, I don't know. I think our bread and butter, our main thing will remain the PC. It will be Steam because here we have like, a certain confidence that we won't be kicked, and uh, we have a large audience. So yeah, that's probably what it's gonna be. PC master race for the foreseeable future.
All right. Do you want to go over some of this concept art, or do you want to talk about another game in the catalog?
Um, yeah, I think we've said most about Dwarfold. I mean, it will be a dungeon crawler. There will be some story. There will be dialogue. It won't just be pure hack and slay, but it will be very combat focused.
Yeah, I was going
Yeah.
to speak on that briefly. The guy we've got doing the lore it has been absolutely brilliant. As creative director, there's like nothing I've really had to do. One time he was like, I can't think of a story for this character, and I just helped him out. And then another time he wrote the whole intro poem there. And because English isn't his first language in the trailer, it just wasn't actually quite following any of the actual English rhyming techniques. So I just edited it a bit for him, did it up a little bit, put it in sort of Shakespearean or King James, and it's been brilliant. But he's made incredible lore, and I think it helps getting a plethora of people because he's from outside of Western Europe, and that gives you a unique sort of view on things. So the lore is really interesting because the dwarves are normally like this ancient race, right? But they're actually quite new, and they got sort of changed by a curse and things. So it doesn't subvert at all, but it flips some of these just like expectations everyone has on their head to allow for this fantasy to go in a little bit of a different direction at times. The undead are sort of formed in a different way to what they typically are, that kind of stuff, which has really allowed him to push the boat out with it and make a kind of cool kind of fantasy because it's kind of like a colonial fantasy in as much as you're recolonizing this mine. So there's like a colonial underpinning to all of this fantasy that I think is quite unique. So yeah, that was a little bit
Yeah,
about the lore.
we definitely tried to come up with a setting and story that both honors classic fantasy and finds new angles for things without without like subverting expectations or doing that kind of stuff.
All right. Let's see here. I think the thing I have crashed. Let me make.
Short thing before I forget it again. I saw in the chat that Eugene Tkachenko asked if we need devs or artists. So yeah, if anybody wants to work with us, we definitely need artists, 3D modelers, in particular 3D modelers who have experience with low poly. If
Eh,
somebody here sees this, we are definitely looking for artists.
And I guess
Just saying.
you just go to your website, and I think there's a form you can fill out there.
Yes, there is a form. Alternatively, you can literally just DM us on Twitter or yeah, that's probably actually
Discord,
the easiest.
anything,
Discord.
Telegram
We have a
comments,
Discord.
whatever. Just
Yeah.
get a hold of us, yeah, because we are quite desperately looking for more 3D modelers at the moment. One guy is doing an incredible amount, and bless him, his little 10-year-old daughter has been learning,
Yeah.
and she's done some great models. She's done some weapons and stuff. She's been doing brilliant.
Oh
There are
wow!
actually
yeah.
some weapon models by the 10-year-old daughter of our main artist for Dwarfold in the game, and she's really good. Yeah.
She is,
Now,
yeah.
this made me think about AI, and because I know AI increasingly can do a lot of 2D images pretty well. I don't think you can use AI to create 3D models just yet, or if you can, well, I think there's actually there's something available through NVIDIA that I should have bookmarked this and just talk about it. But I think increasingly AI will make 3D modeling more accessible to people who aren't 3D modelers. Have you guys, or is that on your horizon? Is that on your radar at all? Or
I'm watching these things. Yes, I'm observing like what's going on there, but I mean, I have become very skeptical of AI, honestly. Of AI generated graphics, which is kind of ironic given that we have actually used a little bit of AI generated art in TGR simply because we couldn't have done it otherwise. Um, but I don't know. I've maybe that's almost a little bit irrational, but I have definitely developed this like when I see something is AI made or when I know it is AI made, I just like instinctively, emotionally, it's not even something I can really control or I do intentionally, just kind of dismiss it. It's like I feel like I'm being cheated or
it
something.
is slop.
I've
It,
seen,
it, it
I've seen
totally
the
is
3D
slop.
models.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
3D models are very blobby as
And
well.
also, I mean, for 3D models, it's not feasible at the moment. It's not good. For 2D, everything I see all the time is like, yeah, it's slop. I don't know. Even it looks impressive in a way because it's rendered it very detailed and so on. But it's always like when you look at it, it always looks like something, but if you actually look at it, it actually kind of is nothing. And I don't like that. I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe this will change, but
Mm.
I don't know. So
We
far
use it
we're
internally
doing
very, very briefly, don't we? So if
yeah,
I've got an
okay.
idea that I
Yeah,
need to explain to someone about the law, I
true.
will get AI to generate a quick image that's what I wanted. I then Photoshop over the top. I layer stuff up, and then I'll send it internally. We just never put that stuff out there. And I'm like, hey, this is what I've been trying to explain to you all. So it's quite helpful for meetings to do something quickly, but we wouldn't want to put any of it out there.
Yeah. No, I mean, increasingly it seems like a very, very sophisticated, advanced tool. But I just hear and see different things on it. Some people act like it. I generally feel like I guess to outline my basic position on AI and where we're going and all that is I probably share a similar view that Jeff Bezos has, and that's that there probably is going to be a .com like bubble. It's probably going to burst. It's probably grossly exaggerated in terms of what it can and can't do across the board. Um, and so we're probably going to get some kind of crash at some point, but it will continue to progress and it will continue to revolutionize the internet and content creation and all of that in the same way that the internet did when it just because there was the .com crash didn't mean that all of that went away. So that's what I guess I see happening. But just right now, just like I think YouTube is just completely full of all these AI slop videos. Like what it seems particularly good at doing is making like how like animal savior videos and things like that are super popular.
Oh
Like,
my God, yeah.
oh, this man saved like I think the one I saw today was a man saves a bear that was drowning in a frozen lake, and so it's very good at making that type of content, and you know, we can.
It's mostly used to like yeah create like some kind of engagement farming slop content or stupid memes or whatever. It's I do not see it used for anything even halfway serious. I mean the closest thing is yeah for concepting ideas quickly, like Edmund described it. It is actually somewhat useful for that. That is true. Yeah. But yeah, and in general, I agree with your take, however, or Jeff Bezos's take. Um, yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's not going away, and there are many ways you can use it. But yeah, I mean, I
guess
think I think it will go. Yeah, no, sorry, yeah.
No, I was gonna say I think I shared the disgust toward it, but it's like one of those things that like you're gonna have to contend with it no matter what, and if you don't, you eventually will be left at a severe disadvantage. And if you contend with it in the correct way, like that is what I think we'll have to do is we will have to carve out a way to use it that maintains some kind of humanistic, artistic integrity.
Yeah.
And that will be very difficult to do. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, apart from the quality of it, there is also just there is the artistic process, and I I think AI has actually forced me to think about this more in depth, and it has made me realize just how important the artistic process, in my opinion, actually is. And if you just remove that and you just like, I don't know, have a prompt and it just spits it out, it's just, it might look nice, but it's, I don't know, it's nothing. Nobody made it. It's like, yeah,
Man shall learn by the sweat of his brow, right?
yeah.
Well, it's like, you go back and you watch, like James Cameron films, like Alien or something like that, and you just, I think maybe young people can't relate to them. But I feel like you can watch that and you can kind of appreciate the detail that went into the animatronics. There is blood, sweat, and tears that I think come through the screen. And, like when you watch something that's even mostly CGI generated, there just isn't as much of an appreciation for it. Like, it's just not as... I mean, obviously there's a place for CGI. Obviously there are some things that you really can't do. In some instances, there's some things you just can't do, but even in the Lord of the Rings, like I think it was in the Hobbit, like Peter Jackson ended up using CGI for a lot of the goblins and that one tract throughout the film, and I can see why he did it, but at the same time, it just doesn't speak to me in the same way as the animatronic stuff does. It's just I guess eventually, it's a matter of like AI getting good enough and the digital medium getting good enough to replicate all of that. But I don't know. I just feel like there is something sort of intangible about it.
I don't know. I know what you mean, and I mean with CGI, it's there to some extent, but still, like you have to do so much more intentionally with CGI. There is so much more intention by the artist. You do set everything still relatively by hand, and you have a very high degree of control. And with AI, that's just different. And yeah, I don't know.
The big element with animatronics, right? It's empirical sense data. You can see the xenomorph is actually there. You can see the T-Rex is actually present. It's kind of scary. Whereas, CG, your brain just instantly shuts off knowing it's not real. Not saying it can't produce marvels. I mean, look at what they did with Gollum originally. It's remarkable stuff. But yeah, fundamentally, it's not there. And I think part of why things like Gollum do function is because of the fact there's an actor underneath it.
Right. And that's to the extent that the goblins worked in the Hobbit films. They worked because of that, because they still had actual human actors doing the acting, and they superimposed the CGI elements. The actors. That's why it worked.
Oswald Spengler had quite a good take on it as well. Like, he basically said, women are pretty much born with the capability to create life later, and they will pretty much develop towards that constantly and do most things to attain the goal of creating life. And he's like, so where do men create? And it's like the best we can do is mimic it. So we make philosophy, we make art, we actually create things, which I think to some large extent is quite true. I think it's why we've birthed civilizations. I think it's why we've pushed the precipice of what's possible, is because it's what we can put out into the world and what we can affect for future generations. So women live eternally through their children, as do we, but I think we also live eternally through the civilizations that we create, right? And I think that's kind of true of AI as well. You look at it and you're like, no one made that, so I don't care.
Right. And
it literally gives me the feeling like, okay, if everything or if a lot of the content online is AI created, and it's just like this huge flood of content, it's just like, so much of it. I really think that when I think this through in my head, like to its last consequence, I can only imagine just checking out. Like I don't
Yeah.
want content. The
Yeah.
concept of content is played out for me. I don't want it. I want to do something else. I want to do something instead. I want to go outside. I don't know, something. I really like that's what it triggers in me. Yeah.
And we might be destined for that. I think Morgoth calls it the great turning away or something like that.
Mm.
I eventually see in a world where AI can generate like a whole Netflix series in an afternoon if you give it a series of prompts. People are going to get really tired of that, and I think it'll just breed a lot of nihilism. People won't feel invested in much of anything. Um,
There's a hubris to all these technocrats, right? It's like we're gonna make babies in a pod. We're gonna create cells and protein. We're gonna grow meat. We're gonna do all this. It's this constant obsession with becoming a little god,
yeah, yeah,
lowercase
that's what it
g.
is.
And
Mm.
the AI creation is the same thing. It's like you won't even need to make. We will create, and they put out these ridiculous notions like. At the end of it all, like with the Borg or whatever it is, the big cube at the end of Star Trek, it's like, turns out we created God. And it's like, okay, let's just get
Hmm.
rid of the entire logical law of causation, but sure.
Yeah.
Well, we should move on to the next
Yeah.
game in the catalog.
Right. Right. What should we do next? I think the next one would yeah, it should be probably Hyper Rebellion, which is sort of a sequel to the Great Rebellion, but it has already kind of developed into a bit of its own thing. And yeah, Edmund is also the main lore and yeah, story writer on that. So I guess I would also just let him say a bit about the background of the game.
hmm Yeah. So gameplay-wise, as you can see from the footage, we're looking at being a little bit like a survivor-like, but we're really trying to push the boundaries. That's where Roland can talk more on that later, with everything that he's trying to do to make sure that this pushes to a new place, really. But lore-wise, we originally just wanted to do a straight-up follow-up to TGR, but to some extent, we just wanted to outgrow it, actually, move on a little bit, at the same time as giving fans the recognition it's still there. So it's like 500 years in the future, you're still the main character from TGR, and at the end of TGR, there was like a 10-year war called the Singularity War, which was all over this whole Lord Sorrox trying to create himself into a small god, but ends with you sort of forming the Roman alliance, which is this loose alliance of various groups that fundamentally kind of hold tradition as a value, but they all disagree on how and in what way. So I don't know, some are pagan, some are Christian, some are whatever, right? But they end up raiding this Department of Time and Relative Dimensions, which is a bit of a Doctor Who reference, but also it stands for TARD. And then he gets transported like 500 years into the future, and he gets picked up by the New Varangian Guard, which were the royal guard for the Emperor of Europe. And basically, in the time he was gone, all the work he'd done and the Roman alliance had done actually did lead to a new Rome. It led to a fourth Rome, and Europe had this like huge golden age, and they were like flying around in hover cars. And you've sort of just about missed that because the Mekaviks started to take over. They were conversing with AI that had been made in the cyberverse during the TGR era, and fundamentally that AI has a different goal to the Emperor and the current system. So eventually it ends up with the Mekaviks sort of imprisoning the Emperor, killing him. Everyone's too scared to speak out. Everyone's got, blackmail on them, be it on the internet or whatever. Sort of a reference to like MindGeek having footage of everyone at their computer. So, yeah, like it ends up with very few people being willing to fight, but you're in the New Varangian Guard and you work with a few other factions where you like dropped into these locations for various purposes that will be revealed in the proper story, but it's all about bringing back some semblance of order and control to Europe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this. I like the way this game looks. Somebody in the comments said that it reminds them of Fallout, and I think the reason. I mean, one, it's isometric, and I guess some of the graphic design kind of has that veneer. But I think the real thing is the character's wearing blue suit. It kind of looks like the Vault. Kind of looks like the Vault
Yeah,
101
there's
jumpsuit.
that. We didn't even really realize that when we were making this version of the game that you see in this footage. But yeah, people really made the Fallout comparison, and we could see it then too. And then we decided actually after we announced the game already to really lean into this. And we are currently, or have actually almost finished, or yeah, we are in this process of kind of reworking and adapting the aesthetic of the game a little bit, and we will really lean heavily into like a sort of specifically European retrofuturism as opposed to the Americana retrofuturism
Uh-huh.
that you have in Fallout. And yeah, and the new Varangian Guard, they will have power armor, which is a bit like, inspired by the Fallout or Warhammer power armor and so on. And then we just yeah, we're going away from this classic like neon cyberpunk thing, and we'll lean more into this retrofuturism, like yeah, with retrofuturism with European characteristics.
But it's odd, right? Because in this universe, World War III's taken place, but World War IV hasn't. But it's set to take place. So there's still kind of a semblance of cities, but there's like sniveling bureaucrats running those, with a bunch of sort of fellaheen living there, just sort of the last of man that are just sort of busy consuming, safe in their cities. Whilst outside of that is like nuclear wasteland and war between all of these different factions. But yeah, we want to look at, as Roland just said, like what would retrofuturism be for Europe? We all look at the American one. We always look at Norman Rockwell paintings. We always look at like, the chrome veneer of your like 50s technology. But what is it in Europe? What would our big rise be? Where yours would be nuclearization, it would be capitalism, this kind of stuff. Well, Europe's built on kings and emperors and anointments, and we've always had this sort of view of like Deus Vult, God has willed us. So that's where Europe would go at its pinnacle, right? It would follow that same trajectory again. It would have an emperor for the whole of Europe, and that's what comes crashing down.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting to think about. I guess I'm inclined to agree. I don't know if you want to comment on it or if you guys are even familiar with it, but I think there's that development team that released a Fallout London. I never
Yeah.
played it. I looked at some of the video for it and whatnot. It looked like it was well put together and whatnot. But that did seem to follow, like, as Edmund put it, the Americana version, or the Americana interpretation of retrofuturism. It still felt, at least from what I mean, there were a lot of English references in there. They did repurpose a lot of English cultural references to fit within Fallout. But I guess at the same time, though, it did still feel like an English Americana, if that makes any sense, like an English retrofuturistic Americana.
Yeah, it did. It did.
I didn't get quite the impression that it was going in this very different direction. But I guess to some extent, um, England, the culture going on back in the 1950s and 60s uh, was pretty similar with Anglo America to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, we were exporting all of our music en masse, right? The Beatles and whatever. And
Right.
there was always the joke. It was like, if you've made it in Britain, you've done well. Once you make it in America, you've really made it.
Yeah. But I'm definitely looking forward to this game. I like and like, where's it going to be available and when does it release and all of that? Like, what's the itinerary?
Realistically, this is probably the it's in a way it's the most ambitious one, and especially graphically, like we are putting a lot of work into yeah, into making it graphically as cool as possible, and we are working out the aesthetics for it and everything. So probably more like end of next year, maybe. I don't know, hard to say. I don't want to, like, when it's done. Um, yeah. Maybe gameplay wise, just to clarify, because I've seen some people like talk about, like, yeah, I mean, it's not an RPG, it's a top-down shooter. It has some elements of a survival's like, but we want to take it into a slightly different direction. More like a, I don't know, like a horde shooter or whatever. Bit like an action RPG maybe. And we have this very elaborate lore, so who knows? Maybe we'll make a proper RPG in this setting one day. I think it is a pretty cool setting with a lot of potential. And yeah, because you were asking where it's released, like yeah, PC, Steam
Okay.
for now. I
Yeah.
mean, let's see about console releases. Maybe if it's, I would have to look into it how it really is, like, I don't know, releasing on Xbox or so, but yeah. It's
Yeah,
gonna
my
be
fear
pretty
being right.
PC centered for now.
Yeah, once bitten, twice shy. Because
Yeah.
people say, Nintendo, part of the reason we went to go there is Nintendo are typically less forward politically in general. So we thought it might be a better place to be overall, out of the poor options that are available. But, Xbox, you look at the progressivism there, you look at the progressivism at PlayStation. We've had a lot of people suggest you should go to PlayStation, and a lot of console players will back their horse to this day. And it's like, I'm really sorry, but that's just as cooked, mate. So I'm not quite sure we're going to get on PlayStation either, but we'll see what the future holds because some of these games are, far less overtly political. We've got it in there, we've got these themes, it's always going to seep through. What the creator feels and believes, of course, are always going to seep through. But, we have steered away from satire. These are pieces of art in their own right.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I gotta remove something from the chat. Somebody's creating something that they shouldn't.
I see somebody is building.
Yeah. It's don't do that, guys. I would appreciate it if you didn't, especially I can't moderate a big chain. And so let's move on to the next catalog. Yeah. So let's move on to what's next in the catalog. I think there's a couple more here.
There's one more actually only. Yeah. I sent you a trailer for that one. That's still I guess the one we have that's still in earliest development. Mainly also because the main graphics artist is the same as Aturi who does the graphics for Serene States, and he's currently still very much busy with Serene States. So until that one is done, it's gonna be a bit on the back burner for now. But it will be an episodic point and click adventure style game, kind of like Longest Journey or the classic LucasArts adventures.
Yeah,
Also a
yeah,
little
that's
bit.
what I was thinking about.
Yeah, and it's taking place in this solar punk inspired future where where there is this huge mega city which was built by this visionary tech billionaire, I don't know, Elon Musk type guy who wanted to create like a techno ecological utopia with like giant glass skyscrapers and plants like hanging gardens growing from the skyscrapers and such. And yeah, eventually that all went to hell, and now it's more like become a bit of a hellhole, and everything is AI controlled in there, and you actually play a tech guy, like you play an AI technician who gets sent to like to repair something because something has broken in the city's AI regulation system, and it will be a kind of crossover between like this solar punk inspired kind of slightly not full blown post apocalyptic, but kind of like solar punk utopia going to hell kind of scenario, mixed with a sort of cosmic horror. It will be a horror game essentially. So yeah, that's the gist of Biostician. And the story is actually going to be written by Dave Martell, who probably a bunch of people here know. Yeah, he's a very talented writer. He recently released his book, Grim Earth Shall Burn, and yeah, he publishes the Bizarchives magazine where all these pulpy with pulpy
It's like a
stories
Pulp
and
Fiction
horror stories.
inspired, yeah.
Pulp Fiction inspired, yeah, collection of stories. And yeah, he's a good friend of us, and he has also helped us a lot in the past. And he agreed to write the story for that one. So I'm actually also pretty excited about that one. And once we can devote more resources to it, the idea is to release short episodes of it. I don't know, maybe 2 hours playtime. And yeah, be able to just release them in a serial format essentially.
Yeah. So like
All the time.
you might release one and then like a few months later episode 2 will come out, or do you think it'll be a longer duration between each release?
We have to see. I think like if we can actually devote some resources to it, it could be done probably in a few months, or I don't know, maybe it's going to be half a year or so. But it shouldn't be super long. The whole point of it is to not be like this mammoth project that takes us years to finish.
And that, considering what it is, that will probably always just be a PC game. Like, probably is not going to be released on.
I don't know. I have actually considered mobile for that one because point and click is actually relatively suited for a mobile device, I think. It's an option. It's something we consider. It would be easy to port. So, but it's gonna be PC first. Like we will
Yeah.
definitely release it on PC first. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that's Biostician, and it's also gonna have a very cool soundtrack, which will also be made by Dave Martell, multi-talent, and Arturi.
Yeah, I didn't know he
the
made.
artist.
Well, I guess I knew he made guitar because, like, when I went back to the U.S. for a little bit, he and I like had, we talked about, starting a band and me playing drums and,
Nice.
and whatnot, and but
Cool.
that probably was never going to come to fruition. But yeah, I knew he made music and whatnot, or at least that he played the guitar. I didn't know he did full blown
I think
soundtracks.
he was
though.
like wasn't he like even like in a death? I saw a post on Telegram that I think was in a death metal band or something at some point. I don't remember, but yeah, it's gonna have a very interesting soundtrack. Also, it's gonna be inspired by like this world music that was kind of popular in the '90s, but like with a in a slightly distorted and darker version.
There's a teaser of it at the end of the trailer, and when we're done, for anyone, look up Cultcast or just look up Biostician trailer and you'll find it. But the music's at the end. That's absolutely brilliant. Dave Martell's voice acting throughout is
Oh yeah,
absolutely
he's also gonna
brilliant.
do voice acting, by the way. So yeah, I mean, he's gonna do a lot on that game actually.
Now I don't
Yeah.
have a I don't have a link to it, but excuse me. You brought up Dave Martell voice acting, and that reminded me that I spent basically a year making a mod for Fallout 4, and
Yeah.
I modded out all the diversity, and I made it completely. I made the game really much in line with the hyper caricatured, because the original Fallout had this, and the creators always talked about Fallout being sort of like it was a tongue-in-cheek sort of 90s liberal, poking fun at 50s Americana culture, and it was the view more or less, and I probably could articulate this. Actually, I wrote up a whole articulated post explaining my rationale for doing what I did, but I lost all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be making fun of white America, white, hyper Christian, hyper capitalistic America in the 1950s, or at least the 90s liberal version or interpretation of it. And so I thought, well, it doesn't really make sense that Fallout 4 has all this diversity in it, and it doesn't make sense that there are all these strong female characters running around, being badasses and whatnot. So I took all that stuff out, and I used AI voice. I used 11 Labs to do it, and a bunch of people voice acted, Dave Martell being one of them. Actually, if you're familiar with the character Arturo in Diamond City, Dave Martell voices the new character. God, I forget what I called him. I wanted to call him Big Dave, but that would have been a little silly because it's Dave Martell. So I forget what
Yeah,
I
I
ended.
can't remember.
Yeah,
I played it through as well. I can't remember.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, interestingly, I played it through on console, which is a
That's
secret little story.
Right. Reaper was telling me, one of our mutual friends, that there's apparently, because the mod got banned from everywhere. I tried to publish it on Nexus, and it immediately got banned. I think it lasted for a couple of months on ModDB database or whatever. That got banned. And then, it's still around on various share sites, I think. I don't remember any names, but I'm sure if you search for it, you could find it. It's called Grounded Commonwealth. But, yeah, Reaper, I lost my train of thought. Reaper was...
Well, he
Let's
ported it to a certain console. In
Oh, right,
secret.
yeah. He was telling me that there's a unnamed upload of it on the Microsoft Bethesda Xbox store, or because they have their own mod listing website, and apparently there's some unnamed version of it there, and it's got like several thousand downloads, and nobody's noticed it and taken it down, and I just thought that's funny.
That's the weird part. Yeah, there's like loads of people have rated it like 4 or 5 stars, and I was like, that's really strange. It was made specifically for me to experience, and then there's like 70 people upvoting it.
Yeah.
People are complaining about the reference to Silent Hill 2. The mirror scene is too obvious. Yeah, I don't
Well, there's
know.
a ton of
I don't even
that's overdone in general, or not overdone, but that's like a that's I don't know if that's a Silent Hill thing. You know, that's been just done.
it's yeah, like we just wanted to have a scene where the guy is like introspective, and this is actually where the game starts. It starts on the toilet of his company. So he's looking there in the mirror. I guess it's a common thing, yeah. It wasn't intended as a Silent Hill 2 homage, but I guess this is how people interpret it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely in Silent Hill too, but I don't know if you could accurately say that that's like first instance that came about. I think that's just a cliche throughout
Pretty
like
sure.
Western
Like
cinema, you know.
yeah, the protagonist looking into the mirror.
Yeah, it's always a symbol of
It's
introspection or duality,
yeah,
right?
it's
So yeah.
introspection. Yeah, that's the point. Anyway, yeah, um,
So
right.
yeah, so we've gone over a lot of stuff. We've been streaming for a while now. Do you guys want to bring up anything else before we try to wrap it up, or?
Like some closing words about our games, just in general, so that everybody understands. Except for Last Guy, which is already pretty close to being finished. All of these games are pre-alpha, meaning their graphics are very early and are subject to change. The final games will probably not look, at least not exactly like those. I mean, Dwarfold will probably look pretty much like those, but for Biostician, I mean, we don't even have like actual gameplay footage shown here, and especially Hyper Rebellion is currently undergoing. I mean, I guess I can also say that like it's our graphics artist who you also know. He is currently like rewriting a lot of the way how things work in Unity with yeah, with various graphical like yeah,
Is Unity the main
lighting,
engine that all
etc.
of you guys are
And
using for everything?
yes, we are using Unity at the moment. It's doing its job, you know. I, it's not perfect or anything, and of course there's always the argument to make your own engine, but that's just not feasible at the moment, mostly
Right.
because of the tools, really. Like you know, the editor and everything around it. Making that yourself would be just hell. So yeah. At the end of the day, despite everything, Unity is very useful and it works fine for what we are doing
We have a
at the
lot of our own
moment.
tools and plugins as well, and we're slowly developing our own sort of Unity hybrid, as it were. So yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely like modifying a lot of stuff from how it works in a default way. So yeah, that's that about Hyper Rebellion, and yeah, as I said, it's all still pre-alpha footage or you know a short showcase, and we do have a Patreon. I have to yeah also say that we do have a Patreon where people can follow the development of all of those games. We will post concept art, we post articles about stuff like yeah, like what I just said, the graphical reworking of how stuff like I don't know ambient occlusion and such things work. So also some technical stuff for people who are interested in that. And yeah, you can follow as these games are being developed if you follow us on our Patreon. So
Two biggest things people can do for us is, you know, if you've got some money, pick up TGR. It's always cheap. It's often on sale. But pick up TGR, that money, you know, gets to us. And then
And
apart from that,
regarding
wishlist Serene States.
yeah, which is Serena
regarding
States.
purchase.
Yeah,
Sorry,
sorry.
I want to get this
Yeah.
clarified real quick. Is there like a preferred place you want people to buy the game? Like, is it best to buy it directly from the website?
It doesn't really matter,
Okay.
honestly. Uh, we are fine with everything.
It swings and roundabouts, right? So the website, we get like 100% of the money, nothing goes to Steam. Quid's in, that's really good. But Steam, it gets the player count up, it gets the reviews up, it allows us had to have more metadata, more analysis and stuff. So it swings and roundabouts really. However you want to play it, however you want to own it, go for it. We make sure that we update every single version. But Steam is sort of the most help for us visually on the outside to the rest of the world.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I guess we can wrap it up here. We've been going for a while. I kind of wanted to briefly comment on that Stalker 2 Hearts of Chernobyl game because it's you know it's I mean it's I guess it's definitely a AAA game, But because of the war going on, because I think the Ukrainian government at this point spends like 40% of its annual budget on military now. So I mean, the fact that the game even got made at all seems rather remarkable. And it is kind of bug laden, like it's got some issues. I mean, it has real issues. But I guess I thought about it, and I wanted to talk to you guys briefly about it because it seems like the quote unquote gamer community doesn't really consider some of the things that like they don't take these things into consideration sometimes when they critique or give feedback on a game. It's like, this game shouldn't have any bugs, it shouldn't have anything, and it's like, you guys do know that developers who worked on the game are dead now. They literally were killed in a trench or killed by a drone. It's like, you should kind of measure your expectations and be rather generous that you got a game at all.
Mm-hmm. Plus, that game gets updated incredibly regularly. They're doing really well to bring that game around and to bring the whole sort of I can't remember what they call it in particular in the Chernobyl games, but the systems where people like live a whole life around you and they actually travel places and stuff, and it keeps the whole world living and alive. They've done incredible work bringing all that back, and yeah, it's something we typically get so much of in the comments, is this bizarre expectation, because normally nowadays people see the word indie. It's not really indie, right?
Right.
Indie is currently things like Expedition 33, with like millions of funding from government programs, you name it, a publisher. And I'm like, that's not really indie. How many people are truly indie? Like, I don't know, like Jeff Vogel, like a few people. Very few people are truly indie doing it by themselves with their own funding. And yeah, there is an element of curbing your expectations. We punch well above our weight with the games that we make, considering it's freelancers, volunteers, and a loose constellation of friends spread out across Europe, across time zones, all the way to Mexico, you name it. So we do incredibly well for that. Punch well above our weight. But yeah, people do have some strange expectations. They're like, if you put all your effort into one game, they sort of seem to think that we're magically going to get like a double A game out of that. And Roland always says like, okay, if we just get 9 women pregnant, then they only have to be pregnant for a month each. It's like, it doesn't function that way.
Yeah, it's not so easy, if you have bigger team sizes, that comes with its own challenges, and we have specifically decided to make multiple smaller games with smaller teams because it just fits our structure better, and it's better than putting all your eggs in one basket, so to say. And yeah, people have, I think, just no concept how things are made. They consume things, and they are there. They just exist. They just come to them
Right.
from like some magic realm or something. And yeah, everyone's a critic, no? I mean, it's
And it's the
easy.
talents you get, right? You got to suit people to what they're going to make, what they're good at,
Yeah.
what they like. I can't ask someone who's a volunteer to work for 2 years on something that's not their cup of tea in the slightest. I can't ask them to do that. And then likewise, people come in with their own ideas, and Dwarfold gets born out of, I had an idea for a dwarf game that got changed into another one. And then another guy came in who had a great idea for a mobile game, and those things merged. Then a new guy came in who does the lore really well. But I'm not going to ask Dave Martell to write Hyper Rebellion. It's not his ballpark in the slightest, right? That's mine. So you've also got to always think, okay, I've got like these 20 people, but what can they actually do? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And that's going to dictate what you can create as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Reaper's pointing out in the comments that more money equals better games ultimately, and that's how you have to look at a lot of this stuff.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, if you support, you get what you pay for, and if you support projects like this, small independent studios like this, they will eventually grow into something larger, and that will potentially affect the industry as a whole. So if you're tired of where game development is going, if you're tired of the cultural elements that saturate game development as we know it now, then you know set some money aside once a month to support small studios like this, because that's how you're going to um it would be great if some big mega donors came along and bankrolled some stuff, and maybe eventually that will happen. That's not that's not entirely out of the realm of possibility, but for the time being, it's just going to take a lot of small donations from a lot of people. If you're willing to spend 20 to 50 bucks a month on energy drinks or caffeinated beverages or whatever it is, just take some of that money to give it to somebody who's working towards something you think will, culturally benefit, it will affect the cultural changes that you want to see affected. So
The right-wing donor class has not figured out yet, in the slightest, that they need to put money into this stuff. When it comes to things like Dustborn, whatever, the left get it. They know what to fund. They know where to put their money, and they get millionaires and billionaires involved. They get Davos types involved in games. Fundamentally, they actually divert tax money towards
Yep.
these games that are against you.
Yep.
And it's like, meanwhile, on the quote-unquote right, where's the donor class? Where actually is it? Why are they not seeing the importance of culture? Hollywood's kind of dead as something that propagandizes people. People aren't really showing up anymore. They've seen all the tricks. They're fed up of being involved in their sex magic. And everyone is now looking to games, and they're well aware of that as well. So games are very much going to be the next sort of frontier for this fight.
I mean, they're already the frontier. I mean, they have been pushing. I did that 5-hour series on BioShock. That for anybody who's tuning in now and has been unfamiliar with the work I've done over the past years, I got banned in 2019. I have several long form series, and one of them is on BioShock, and you can see that Ken Levine and company had a whole bunch of cultural ideas that they wanted to put forth and spread. And he's not alone. Like a lot of people who make these big video game franchises, they have motivations. They have political, social, and cultural motivations. They have an agenda. They have an idea. They want to convey certain ideas to the public and see those replicated. And a lot of right-wing people, as you say, they just don't really see the utility in that. They tend to be reactionary, plain about what other actors who do understand this stuff do, and then they kind of just expect it to change. And it's like, well, you can complain about it and point it out, but eventually, you got to start to try to work to put something in its place. And not everybody can be a game developer, not everybody can be a movie director, and so on and so forth. But you can throw a couple bucks a month to the guys who are, or the guys who are trying to be. And I guess on that, if there's nothing else, we'll just close out. Unless have we? I don't think we've been putting a bunch of links in the chat. Maybe we should just spam the chat with some links now.
Yeah, where to even start?
It would be handy. Put the Steam one for the last guy. That would be really good. We do want those wish lists up. It really affects how we get seen on the store. We're looking, day one when it comes out in sort of February or March. We're really looking to get as many people as we can on at once for the initial launch. So, wishlisting that is a free act people can do.
I'll just post that in the chat directly now.
Yeah, and after this, when it's uploaded as a standalone video or whatever, I'll make sure to have like a pinned comment with all the info. I was just trying to manage so many different things during this because I can't do that too.
Right, so I posted the Serene States link. I'll post the Great Rebellion on Steam. and our Patreon, where you can check out our current games that we are working on. Just spamming it.
Right.
And we also have one more thing. We have we have now started making a newsletter where people can subscribe, because it's with all this like getting banned and so on, having just an email list of people is actually extremely important. So we are currently trying to grow our email list. So if you wanna be updated on everything we are doing via email, feel free to subscribe.
Yeah, it's another thing that's free and gets us direct communication.
Yeah,
with
it's
you.
free.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I hope that this banning from the Switch Marketplace doesn't set you guys back too badly, and hopefully we'll get some more people purchasing some of the games that are available right now after this stream, and hopefully things will pick up. But thanks for coming on. Thanks to everybody who tuned in, and again, I apologize for the technical difficulties and whatnot. If I do more streams, I will eventually work all of that out, but I'm typically. All right. You guys later. I will.
Okay, thanks a lot for
outro.
having us.